Hey YouTube, Bob here. Welcome to the next edition of my Nintendo Unboxed playlist. And this one is actually the request of an eagle-eyed viewer who noticed that in some of my earlier Nintendo unboxing videos, I was taking a look at both the North American and Japanese variants of the consoles. And I can't really explain why it didn't occur to me to do that with my most recent unboxing of the North American Gamecube, but there's no reason why I can't do it now in a separate video. So if you haven't yet seen my unboxing of the North American Gamecube, I'll go ahead and put the link to that video in the description for this one. But without further ado, here is the spice-colored Gamecube, the Japanese variant that is. And right off the bat here, the box is a little bit different. It doesn't open on the sides like the North American version of the box did, but there's a little tab here, and then the front or top opens up here. But before we actually crack the box open, let's take a look and see what we have on the exterior. Nice shot of the spice-colored Gamecube, and curious detail about this color variant is that we did get the spice-colored controller here in North America, but the Gamecube console in the spice variant, we never got that here in the United States. It might have been released in Europe, I'm not sure about that, but definitely in Japan is what we have here. So flipping it kind of to the front or bottom of the box here, it looks like we got some details about the system here, as well as what is included. We have the console and the power supply and the spice-colored controller that matches. And one thing that you'll notice that is missing is any sort of AV cable. No composite video, no S-video or component, and that's kind of an interesting feature of, or not feature, but detail of this particular version of the Gamecube, and I'll get into that once we open up the box. But something else that I thought was interesting is it has this little emblem here for the Good Design Award in 2002. I have no idea what that is, but that was very early on in the Gamecube's lifespan, as it was the year that it was released. And the logo itself looks curiously similar to the Gamecube logo, so that's kind of interesting there. So if we flip it over to the back, we have a nice huge picture here of the spice-colored Gamecube controller. It's actually quite nice. I like that. Usually don't see an entire panel of a box just dedicated to a big picture like that. On the back of the North American box, we got lots of screenshots for games, but you'll see that's completely absent on this box. No mention of games whatsoever. We've got the top of the Gamecube here that kind of continues on from the front or top of the packaging. And then on the sides, just the Gamecube branding. So quite a plain box. But what I was mentioning about the absence of AV hookups, that's actually common to Japanese consoles. It might be an environmental thing or just an economical thing to not provide consumers with lots of, different versions or, repeats of things that they already have. So I think Nintendo was figuring if you had an N64 or a Super Famicom, you probably already had the compatible composite video cables. So those were not included. But this is an older, or I'm sorry, a newer version or a newer release of the Gamecube here. I'm trying to look to see if there's a copyright for this particular release. This one says copyright 2001 to 2004 Nintendo. So I might assume that this one was released in 2004 at the earliest. And the reason that's important is because this variant does not include a particular video hookup, which was something that was cut to save on manufacturing costs. Because unfortunately, as a lot of us know, the Gamecube was one of Nintendo's least popular consoles. The Wii U has since displaced it from having that honor. The Gamecube is now, I believe, Nintendo's second worst selling home console. But due to the poor sales, they did some hardware revisions, as hardware manufacturers always tend to do. But we're going to see when we take it out of the box here that that is one of the cuts that they made. So why don't we go ahead and open this up here. Open the tab. Pull up the top of the packaging, In my unboxing video for the North American version of the console, I commented how difficult it was for me to figure out how to get things back in the packaging. It was quite the puzzle, but this one's quite a bit more straightforward. You see everything's just in there. We got the controller, the Gamecube, and then the power supply is back there. And then of course we have documentation. Got a bit of a warning here, something to do with the power supply and not wrapping the cord around it. Then we have the user manual, all in Japanese, all black and white, which I believe the North American one was black and white as well. Lots of those typical images of what to do and what not to do with the console. But yeah, still quite a bit of information about the hooking up, the controller, and then here right away we're getting a little bit of a sneak preview of what was cut from this particular variant of the console, which is the S video out, or the component video out socket there. I think they call it a digital AV out, but we'll take a look at that on my North American GameCube that does have that still. This, of course, was Nintendo's first disc-based system, and then there's the startup BIOS there, all in Japanese, which is interesting to see. And some of the most relaxing music ever, rivaled only by the Wii, I think, as far as relaxing OS music for a game console. But yeah, there's the manual, and then in typical fashion, we've got a sticker here with the serial number, and that should match the serial number sticker on the actual console. I never checked that out, but we'll take a look at that in this video and see if the serials match. Hopefully they do, but if they don't, ah well. Alright, first things first, we'll take a look at the controller here, I think. Maybe that won't be the first thing. Let's see, maybe the console needs to come out first. Might be a little bit of an order of operations here. So we'll take the console out and set it aside here. And then the power supply, which is the least interesting thing of the bunch. And I think the reason I couldn't get this out is this cardboard probably has cutouts for the buttons that are for the control stick. So yeah, there's a little circle there that things were getting caught on, which is why I couldn't quite lift it out of there. But so you can see inside the packaging, all cardboard, like the North American version. But quite a bit easier to figure out how to get things in there. So, very nicely packaged controller. And this one has never been used, so not going to see any signs of wear on the control stick here. This one is brand new. I think this is the first time that hands have ever touched it. I already had a spice-colored controller that I had bought back in the day, so I didn't really see any need to take this one out, but now we've done so for this unboxing video. One of the most, I would say, prolific game controllers ever, having been re-released for two subsequent Nintendo consoles. Both the Wii U and the Switch saw a re-release of this particular controller. So I would definitely say it was one of the most ergonomic and comfortable controllers. Always like the GameCube controller. The only flaw really is this teeny tiny D-pad, but for the games they were making at the time, which were mostly 3D, really wasn't too much of a problem. Then the power supply here, you can take it out of this super long open-ended kind of sheath of a bag. There we go. Very similar, got the vent. It is reminiscent of the vent on the console itself here, although it isn't a vent, it's just a design cue there. It doesn't actually open up. But a little bit of a variant is the Japanese version has a sticker here. Plug is a little bit different, but this AC out port or plug right here, that is pretty much the same as the North American GameCube. Okay, and now for the main attraction, the GameCube console. In a very similar bag to the one that the North American version was in. Handle is going to come in very handy. There we go. And there is the spice-colored GameCube. So right away, let's see if the serial number matches. Because like we've got DJH1 0497642 compared to DJH1 0497642. Yep, the serial numbers match, which is great. So this later version of the GameCube, as the box said, the copyright was 2001 to 2004. This particular version could have come out in 2004 perhaps. It still retains all of the ports on the bottom. It has the cover panels. But what it doesn't have, we flip it over to the back here, is the digital AV out. You can see we have only the analog AV out, which is compatible with Nintendo's composite or S-video and audio cables that were used from the Super Famicom all the way up through the GameCube. So that also includes the N64 that used that cable. So what this would have looked like if it were an earlier model of the GameCube released in 2001 is just like my Platinum US GameCube here. So we've got the digital AV out just like this one has, but then also, I'm sorry, the analog AV out just like this one has, but then the digital AV out here on the left, which allows you to use a component or a red, blue, and green video out to a flat screen TV, which allows for a sharper picture. But the interesting thing about this is only for, it says digital AV out, but it's only the video signal that comes out of here. You still have to use the entire separate cable here to get the audio out. So you have to have both of these plugged in to get the full experience there, that full AV experience. So that is one of the main differences between the earlier model and the later model here, like we have for the GameCube. But other than that, it is pretty much the same, aside from the region coding. Of course, Nintendo was still employing region coding at this time, so this will only work with Japanese games. And I have a very, very limited amount of Japanese GameCube games. I believe I've got Donkey Konga 3, and then the Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures, and maybe a couple others, but I have so few GameCube games from the Japanese region. But anyway, that is the Japanese spice-colored GameCube released in 2001, and this is a newer variant of it without the digital AV port. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and until the next one, take it easy, and you'll hear me then. Take care.